So if we talk about Eon, we kind of refer to our product as a cloud backup posture management solution. And so posture aware automation, we're talking about the idea of saying, looking at the data in our landscape and saying, is this protected, right? Does this particular resource have the retention policy it should, right? Are the proper number of copies being made of that particular class of data? Are they being made to a separate region, right? Like you mentioned, they're protecting against region failure. And then also looking at this idea of saying, right, are we doing things like having a retention policy that is for 1 year plus if it contains, for example, customer sensitive data, or 7 years if it contains financial data, and actually being able to make that distinction at scale, right? So not just going and having to configure that individually in accounts. So want to kind of make that aware that we're talking about being able to have that holistic view for all of your resources across your AWS organization. And that's something that, there's many ways to achieve that. And so we want to kind of talk about that with you today, for sure. So I think there's a lot of ways we could do that in AWS, right, Anthony?
There is. I mean, we have a lot of tools. I mean, we mentioned replication, for example, right? So we've got these native tools with, say, S3 that allow for that allow customers to protect data. So we've got replication, versioning, object lock. I mentioned for things like cost optimization. We have S3 intelligent tiering. We've got the ability to do lifecycle policies. We've even got things like S3 storage lens, which help customers understand how they're using their data at a bucket or prefix level. But from a posture aware standpoint, to your point, none of these tools, in my opinion, they're good for what they do, but are they really going to be reporting on making sure that backups are aligned with business outcomes, right? Like making sure that a development workload isn't being retained forever. None of these tools are really going to do that. Again, that is more on the customer side of the shared responsibility model. So that's where something like Eon can really help. And maybe you want to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so. You make a great point. We think about, obviously, if we look at Eon itself, what we're doing, right? Essentially, we're leveraging, right, that the platform that has been built when it comes to being able to actually take, storage and store data securely in a durable and in a durable fashion, leveraging S3. Right, so Eon is built on S3, and so our backups leverage those 11 nines of durability. But at the same time, we're also giving, right, a single pane of glass view into all of the persistent data that an organization has within AWS. And so what that means is not only can you actually configure, your backups to go into a vault, which is hosted and benefits from that reliability, but you can also have insight into the actual data protection posture in your organization. So what that means is, right, let's say I have hundreds of S3 buckets, thousands of EC2 instances, and a few hundred RDS databases. I can actually have Eon automatically discover all of those resources, tell me, right, do they contain, for example, sensitive data, do they contain PII or financial information, and then allow me to set backup policies not by configuring individual services and those knobs that are available within, each individual AWS account, but actually, have a compliance or governance professional say, on a holistic standpoint, what are the policies that we need, and can we implement them from one single place, and then understand how they've been rolled out to all of our cloud resources. So the real idea here is being able to enable the teams that actually need to be making these decisions about how long data needs to be retained for, and what types of data need to be retained, and then realistically roll those out at scale. Because what we see a lot, I think like you mentioned before, when we're talking to teams that are doing really large cloud migrations, backup, even if it's not an afterthought, it's like, sure, we'll find a way to back up these resources. But then when you go to do that, it actually takes a lot of effort to implement. And when you multiply that by hundreds or thousands of accounts and tens of thousands of resources, it's a lot of work, right, to create a data protection strategy.
Absolutely. That's great. So that you're simplifying that for our customers. So,
yeah. I think one thing we look at is this concept of imagining that, right? That if you're able to, go ahead, this is a question for our audience, right? So assuming that some of you that are listening here, right, are working on similar projects, cloud migrations, things like that. If you're able to free up, right, a large percentage, let's say 60% of your backup budget, right, your data protection budget, what would you spend it on, right? So if you're able to say, and that includes also the time and hours that are involved in implementing that. So would it allow you to do new projects? Would you get new headcount? Would you have pizza parties? So please let us know what you would actually do if you're able to cut down significantly on the actual budget that you're spending on your backups in the cloud. What would you do, Anthony?
Well, you had me at pizza party. New York Italian. What can you do? But I just on that note, I mean, we typically have those conversations with customers when we're talking about cost optimization. Hey, we just freed up all this money, right? I mean, yes, you can go within and spend it on something else within your organization, but from an AWS perspective, are there any projects that you had in the pipeline you can't find funding for? Now we showed you how you can now pay for it. So if you had a new project, whether it be Gen AI or some new analytics project or a modernization effort, you're now just you're keeping your spending the same. You now just freed up that cost to go and do that. So it really kind of benefits everyone at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we see over and over again across our customers, this idea of being able to, right, if you can achieve cost optimization, right, in pretty much any area in the cloud, it's not just saying, okay, I'm going to sit there and sit on that, right? I'm actually able to innovate faster. I'm able to take on new projects and then build more in the cloud, which is a really, really great thing.